meeting for Monday, March 14th, 2022 is now called to order. If all would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kim, can you take a roll call for us?
Yes, ma'am. President Galbraith.
Present.
Vice President Morgan.
Present.
Secretary Scott.
Present.
Board Member Tripp.
Present.
Board Member Tyler.
Present.
You have a quorum, 5-0.
Okay, thank you. We'd like to welcome everyone out to our meeting tonight. And we don't have too much on our agenda. It should go by. You know what? I shouldn't say that because
Don't say that.
you just don't know. You just don't know. But we would like to welcome everyone, and we're happy to be in person tonight. We'll start our meeting tonight with some introductory comments by our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Visu Cleveland.
Thank you.
Some modifications. We have this evening a report from Human Resources, and Mike Chavez, our Executive Director for Human Resources, will provide his quarterly report that he gives to the board on all of the things that are happening in HR. He and his department, HR, continues to aggressively seek out new employees in all areas of district operations. We are hiring, making a lot of hires. We still have a lot of hires that we need to make, but we are that's certainly underway. We've had job fairs. They could share with you some of the things they're doing to actively recruit and retain our employees. We're also very appreciative of the state's commitment to enhance compensation for all staff. This should help a lot with recruitment and retention. And we were really pleased to see a really strong effort by both the governor and the New Mexico legislature. And we are going to have a reception to thank our legislative delegation for all the hard work that they have done, and hope that everyone can attend that and express their appreciation for their hard work. We, as of yet, do not have the actual unit value. We're expecting to get that in the first or second week of April. So we really don't know yet what our budget looks like, but we're working from some assumptions. I hope that those assumptions are correct. But all of the districts across the state are, looking very hard to determine if they are going to have sufficient funding for the mandates, for the raises, and some of the other changes that have been mandated. You will also hear this evening an RFP for Rio Rancho Middle School, and Michael Madrid, our purchasing director, and Melanie Archibek, executive director of facilities, will be requesting that the board approve an RFP for the HVAC project and other repairs, some other major repairs at Rio Rancho Middle School. This is going to be the largest of all the projects that we've had in this bond issue for HVAC renovations, and it's going to be just a major undertaking. It's going to take a lot of collaboration between facilities, the contractors, school personnel, and our families. But when it's done, it will just be wonderful. But it is a very, very large, complex operation. We'll have a discussion this evening on Policy 300, which is the policy related to the inspection of public records. And there are some proposed changes to Policy 300. And Lauren Hatch, Chief Counsel, will present his recommendation to the board for your review. This is a first reading, so no action can be taken on the policy at this particular meeting, but it'll give you an opportunity to read it, comment on it, and let us know if there are changes that you would like to see as a result of that. Okay, and then let's see that next slide. We have our school calendar, and Peggy Johnston, our HR director, and Mike Chavez will present the proposed calendar for the next school year. I want to tell you this calendar comes from the calendar committee. You've already had a chance to look at these in advance. I would stress that the calendar committee has representation from all of our school sites, including the district office. There also has been a survey that is done by the Rio Rancho School Employees Union regarding some of the matters, related to the calendar. The biggest challenge we have, as we always have this time of year, is there's still so many things we don't know. We don't know their funding. We don't know what our allocation will be. And as I said earlier, we won't even have the unit value identified until the first or second week of April. So it's hard to know. But one of our goals, of course, is to be sure we can meet all of those new state mandates. And that's going to be hard to do until we have that. All of this influences our calendar. And they've worked hard on the calendar. We will be, you've had a chance to see too, we will be making a recommendation on one of the calendars this evening. We are, as I think all of you are also receiving requests from families just really wanting to know more than anything else. Want to know when we're going to start, when we're going to end, what do the holidays look like, so that they can begin their own planning. And we've had a lot of discussion on this calendar about program, about maintaining not only staff, but maintaining programs, maintaining the support services that we've been able to put in over the last couple of years, because we feel they've been very successful and we really don't want to lose those. One other thing I would add, it's really important to know with the school calendar, it is an item that we are required to negotiate with our SEU. So the board will either say yes or no on a calendar, and then it goes to them. And they also have a say in negotiations. Mike Baker told me we will be starting negotiations fairly soon. And it's important that we have something to put on the table. All right, and then the last thing on the agenda is just some input from you about future board meetings, the special meetings, committee meetings for our next school year. We put those out early so everybody has a chance to get them on their calendar and plan accordingly. And so we want to know what best meets your needs, what days best meet your needs. Do you like to back meetings up 2 and 1 and only have to come out one time? Would you rather have more time to discuss some of the items and do them separate days? So this will be your chance to tell us what works best for you. And Kim Vesley will present that information and get feedback from the board. So it's a short board meeting, but we do have some important things that we need to cover. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cleveland. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Cleveland at this point? You guys good? No. Okay.
No questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. So for our next item, we will move to item E to approve the prioritized agenda and proposed time allocations. Any movement or any questions on the proposed agenda?
This is Secretary Scott. I moved to approve the prioritized agenda and proposed time allocation.
This is Board Member Jeff Morgan. I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Noreen Scott and a second by Jeff Morgan. And Kim, you want to take a roll call vote for us?
Certainly. Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott,
Yes.
Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, moving into our public comment. And we don't have any public comment in person, but we did receive one public comment over the internet through our form. This is from Alana Nowicki. And she says she's wondering, she lives over in Enchanted Hills and her son attends Vista Grande. And she is wondering if we have any plans to expand the schools in that area as it's been growing and growing and growing out there. And she also said that she loves the Vista Grande administration and she's happy to live within that boundary. For anyone who would like to give public comment, when we are in person, you are welcome to come in to the boardroom. Otherwise, we will still have our public comment form that is up on the Rio Rancho Public Schools board page where you can give public comment and we'll read those out in our meetings. Okay, we're moving into our reports. We have a personnel update. Mike Chavez, our Executive Director of Human Resources, will present.
Good evening. Good evening, President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board, Mike Chavez, Executive Director of Human Resources. My report is titled Current Job Openings as of 3/14/2022, which is the ultimate goal of this report. But I do have a few things I want to share with you before I get to that part of the presentation. First of all, I want to talk to you a little bit about our job fairs. Dr. Cleveland mentioned that we are continuing to have our job fairs monthly. Our job fairs happen the first Wednesday of every single month. We continue to focus on hard to fill positions such as EAs, custodians, bus drivers, positions such as that. We are in the process of partnering with Kelly Services for substitute services. They did come to our job fair this last month, which was a very successful partnership with them at our job fair. And they did some advertising and advertised not only for themselves, but for the district as well. So that was a very nice thing. In April, we will begin advertising for teacher positions. And we will ask people to go ahead and come to the job fair if they have questions about teacher positions, need assistance applying for positions, or maybe have questions about alternative licensure or even just licensure in general. So we work very closely with the communications department on our job fairs. So we'll continue to have those monthly, and we will be doing those year round. Speaking of hiring, since last May, we have hired 378 new to Rio Rancho Public Schools employees. So we are doing a lot of hiring. We're not at a point where we're not hiring anybody. The problem is we had so many vacancies going into this year, and we're still struggling to fill a lot of those vacancies. We actually have hired 537 staff members if you also count our rehire positions, which would be the short-term folks who receive a termination letter at the end of the contract year, mainly EAs, teachers, and other positions, and then are rehired over the summer. So between last May and the current date today, we've hired well over 500 employees for Rio Rancho Public Schools. Dismissals, we've actually only had one termination this year. There was a question about evaluations, and evaluations actually, we're very proud at this point to let you know that all evaluations for Rio Rancho Public Schools are now done electronically. There are no paper evaluations at this point. All evaluations are done through Talent Ed. What happens is the evaluation is transmitted to the supervisor. The supervisor completes the evaluation in the Talent Ed program, shares the evaluation with the employee right there on the laptop, has a discussion with the employee, and then when they submit the evaluation, it goes to the employee in their Talent Ed queue. The employee has a chance to look at it again, and then they sign it electronically and it files directly into their personnel file. This saves the employee from having to scan, upload, save, and things like that, which was it's very time consuming for employees and for supervisors. So this has very, very much streamlined the process and has also ensured that every single employee in the district gets a timely evaluation. There was also a question about trainings that the HR department offers. And what I can tell you is that our primary training method is through the Safe Schools online video program. And what I've shared here for you is I want you to see all of the Safe Schools programs that we offer to our employees, or I shouldn't say offer that, but that we require of our employees. So new hires are required to complete bloodborne pathogens, child abuse, coronavirus 101, FERPA, sexual harassment, and workplace bullying. Those must be completed before any employee is allowed to start a position with Rio Rancho Public Schools. But what follows are several different dates that you'll see. We have our Safe Schools trainings broken up into a number of sections by date. And you'll see that we have a section due in November, diversity awareness, staff to staff, sensitivity awareness, sexual harassment. In February, we have child abuse, identification and intervention, general ethics in the workplace, making schools safe and inclusive for LGBTQ students, and sexual harassment, staff to staff. And then in April, we have bloodborne pathogens, diversity awareness, staff to students, drug-free workplace, and FERPA. All of those trainings are required for reemployment with Rio Rancho Public Schools. If they're not completed, the employee is not recommended for reemployment. And finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about our new hire orientation. Those of you who've been around a while, such as Board Member Tripp, remember that we used to do new hire orientation once a year. We now do new hire orientation for every single employee year round. We offer new hire orientation anywhere from once to 3 times a week. And the new hire orientation is offered to small groups, and we offer that to employees. It's all virtual right now. I'm not sure that we'll go away from virtual because we actually have better attendance when it is virtual. And but we always have a live staff member there, and we invite folks from payroll. We often invite the union to join if they have something to say. And that new hire orientation covers a broad number of topics that allow the employee to know an awful lot about Rio Rancho Public Schools before they start with our district, so that they're aware of things that they need to know in order to be an employee. And so last but not least, here's your vacancies. Right now we have 132 vacancies. We have 13 bus driver openings, and that number fluctuates greatly. We say 13 bus driver openings. However, I know that Lynn Carl currently has a number of people that she's in the process of training. So we actually are in pretty good shape right now because we had some resignations, but we also have quite a number of people who are in the training mode. We only have 7.5 custodial openings, which is actually very good. Again, that's another category of employee who fluctuates greatly. We'll get full, and then we'll have a number of resignations, and then we fill up, and it kind of goes back and forth. We have 1 counseling opening. We have 11 GE teacher openings, which actually isn't terrible when we consider how many GE teachers we have across the district. We have 18 special ed teacher openings. We're always looking for special ed teachers. We need 3 health assistants, and we need 32.5 educational assistants. That has been a real challenge this year, to find folks that want to be an educational assistant. I do believe personally that moving all of those folks, the minimum state employee is $15 an hour next year. And I do believe that that's going to be very helpful to the district when it comes to hiring positions such as educational assistants, bus attendants, custodial, and positions like that. I stand for questions at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you feel like, I'm trying to think of how to word my question. Do you feel like, I mean, it's been really hard through the pandemic. Do you feel like we're starting to have more people come in and look for employment?
I really do. As a matter of fact, Peggy was telling me earlier today that she has received quite a number of inquiries already. For teachers, we've had inquiries from out of state, which is very encouraging.
Oh, that is encouraging.
Because I did a study. We are working right now, Beth and I are working with KRQE just looking at possibly doing some advertising. And one of the things that the KRQE person asked us to do was to look at other states, see what their minimums are. New Mexico is actually exceeding quite a number of states, even those right around us. The only place we weren't really exceeding was in Texas and pretty much just right around Houston. We are exceeding the average in Texas, which is still only about 55,000. I do think that we are going to see an increase, and I'm hoping that what we see is a number of teachers returning to New Mexico that have left because there was a greater opportunity elsewhere, but really would prefer to live in New Mexico. I mean, who wouldn't prefer to live here rather than other places? And I'll be honest, Colorado has a very nice salary schedule, but it's extremely expensive right now to live in Colorado. Arizona, they are very low. Their averages were in the 40s. So our average is going to look really, really good for teachers. And I think that the $15 an hour minimum is going to be very, very beneficial to us as well. But we are already getting inquiries.
That's great. Dr. Cleveland, do you want to give some comments before we get the rest of our questions?
Just a couple of comments with regard to licensure. We just received another email. I'm sure you got it too, that they're extending the time period where licensures will not cost you anything.
Right.
And so you can get a license and there's no cost to that. So we hope that's a small perk that some folks, whether they're renewing a license or coming in, will be able to take advantage of. The other thing, in addition to the compensation, in talking with one of my colleagues, superintendents, who came from Texas this last year, our benefits package is richer, it's better. And so the fact that the salaries have now moved up, but the one thing that we're offering that is better is the actual benefits package. So between those two, we hope some of the folks who left maybe will come back, and those that are looking for the first time may look at New Mexico when they've not done that in the past. So as I said earlier, we're really very grateful for this increase in compensation and benefits both. In addition, there'll be a small enhancement also to the retirement fund. And so people will benefit there as well. So if we could get the word out and get the story out, I think we will find more folks coming. In the past, we would go to job fairs out of state and others, and we were just so outclassed that people hardly even stopped at our table. And that was discouraging. And I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. And so it's really good news.
Dr. Cleveland, I had someone ask me if they let their licensure expire in 2021, what do they have to do? And can they just get it automatically renewed if it's within a 6-month or year period? Or do you know? Does anybody know the answer to that?
No, they would have to reapply, and they would have to do a new background check. Once you have allowed it to expire, you must reapply and you must do a new background check.
Okay.
But right now, but of course we're not at that point. Oh, well, you're talking last year.
Yeah.
But right now, background checks, the fee is waived and the application fee is waived right now. So if they do it right now, it won't cost them anything.
Good to know. Thank you.
Okay. Board Member Tripp, do you have any questions?
Mr. Chavez, great presentation. My question is more of a compliment. 11 general ed teachers. How many teachers?
We have approximately 900 teachers, and that includes gen ed and special ed. We have 1,400 licensed instructional, and that includes our ancillary folks. So really, we have about 900 classroom teachers. Then we have at least a couple hundred, 200 to 300 other teachers who work perhaps outside the classroom, reading interventionists, coaches, et cetera. And then we have about 150 ancillary people. So we have about 1,400 licensed instructional members in this district. So 11 out of that really isn't bad, considering that we've struggled this year to find folks. So we haven't done horribly. We're nowhere near, we're not struggling anywhere near the way that other districts seem to be struggling. I mean, as I've watched, some of the other districts that have really had a challenge.
I think it's a compliment to the whole team. I appreciate it. I know this community appreciates it. My only comment, and you probably already do this, but 32.5 openings for educational assistants, and I agree with you. I think $50 hike is going to help. I'm just wondering how we get it out there as far as all avenues, so that everybody in the community understands that there's a little bit more money to get educational assistance.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask you a quick
Yeah,
question?
please.
I'd like to just ask one that builds on Gary's. What are our retirements looking like right now?
Retirement.
Retirements, people indicating they plan to retire look normal, or is it down, or do you have any information at all about retirees?
It's about because we do the $200 if you give us your notification of early retirement. And it seems to be about normal. We don't seem to be, it's not excessive, but I don't think I wouldn't say that it's down at all. I think we're about average right now. And I can certainly get the actual number, but my understanding from Vanessa and from what she's seen is that, and I can ask Peggy if you have any idea, because she gets those resignation parts first, so.
That's good to know.
Mhm. Okay. Vice President Morgan.
I have one question. Mike, thanks for the information. Greatly appreciate that. You were talking about the employee evaluations, how they're done electronically now.
Yes, sir.
Employees can still get an actual copy of that, correct?
Certainly, it
Okay.
comes to their evaluation folder in their personnel folder. When it comes to them, there's an option at the bottom. They can either save it as a PDF or they can simply print it.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. And Board Member Tyler.
You answered one of my questions, which was more about the percentage of vacancies that we were holding. So thank you for that question, Gary. And my only other comment or idea, I guess, would be is I know we have a small program for like mentor teachers when they're coming in, but I feel like there's a better opportunity. It's something we did in law enforcement to maybe have a feeder program for our EA program where we could hire them, and maybe, part of their benefit would be helping them work towards their licensure, whether they're going to still need their 4-year degree for teaching or whether they're doing the alternative licensure program. So maybe we could try to put together some sort of program where that would be a feeder program for having EAs. It's not long-term, because then you're going to eventually make those people teachers. But I think that might be a way that we could recruit more people into our educational assistants to put them in a feeder program for our future teachers.
You want to comment on that?
I would just add, I don't know, Mike, if you want to expand a little bit on our teacher intern program.
Yeah, let me talk a little bit about some of the programs. So just to your point, board member, there is a program, it's called Grow Your Own. And we do, and we'll work even harder to try to get that word out for any EAs who are interested in becoming teachers. There is money that the state has provided to the universities, and the EAs have access to that money through the universities, can apply for that money and can get tuition waived. And so therefore, while they're working as an EA, and the other piece of that is that the district would work with them if they needed to take a class, say during the day, The district, as part of this state program, the district would work with them on their hours. So there actually is a program there. The state has also just, and they've been advertising this on TV, the governor's been advertising, they have upped, and it's kind of like the lottery system, but they just changed the lottery system. And what they're saying is that there's now money available for people of any age to go back to school. So, there's still the lottery system for kids coming out of high school, but now there's also money available for anyone who wants to go to college and to have their tuition paid. So there's that program. There's also a program that Carl and I have been working on with Todd Resch, which is called a residency program. Now that program is for folks that have a bachelor's degree and want to become teachers. They wouldn't become EAs. They would actually go into a classroom. They would be partnered with a level 3 teacher for 1 year. They would actually get $35,000 as a stipend. And the teacher would get some money and the principal would get some money. And after 1 year, they would have some classes to take. They would work in partnership with this teacher, and they would come out with a certificate in teaching. So for those who are a little nervous about just jumping in and becoming a teacher in a classroom, without some experience, there's that program. We offer, as a district, we started a program. Dr. Cleveland worked with us on this program where we're hiring interns. We've talked about this before. And we hire folks who have a bachelor's degree. We help them get an alternative license. We put them in schools. And essentially, we have them work in different classrooms all day long. So they're kind of like a floating sub, but they're a teacher and the principals work with them. They have a mentor. Principals work with them. They get to know different age levels, grade levels, topics, etc. And so after a year, they kind of have an idea, maybe a better idea about what they'd like to teach. And the next year, and we have picked up a bunch of these interns the following year to be permanent teachers in a classroom. And then of course, there's the regular alternative licensure program, which means if you have a bachelor's degree in, say, psychology, you want to be a teacher, you can get an alternative license. We will plug you right into a classroom. If maybe you subbed for a while and you already have an idea of, how to run a classroom and stuff like that, or maybe you don't and you just want to try it, and we can hire you right into a classroom to be a regular teacher immediately. You can get a license immediately as an alternative licensure person. There are a lot of programs in New Mexico to help people move towards being a teacher. But the EA suggestion is a great suggestion. I think it's something we need to probably promote even more for our EAs, especially those who are interested in becoming teachers down the line.
Yes, and I was talking not so much about our current EAs, but recruiting people to become EAs who are in teaching programs, through CNM, UNM, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then Secretary Scott, do you have anything else?
Yes, I just have one quick question. What is our total head count in the school district right now? How many employees do we have?
That's a little bit of a tough question because it depends on who you want to count. If you want to count contractors, you want to count subs, you want to count, we have a lot of areas where we have people that tend to fluctuate. Or you want to count just permanent employees. Permanent employees, we have approximately 2,400 employees. If you count all of the hourly employees, we have EMDC, we have SAFE, we have substitutes, we have contractors, we go all the way up to about 2,800 employees.
Thank you.
We are one of the largest employers by far now in this community. And
Yes, absolutely. We are the largest employer in Rio Rancho. Yeah.
There's also a program which does not, it probably won't have as much of an impact on us, but is another important program. There's a special scholarship program for Indigenous students
Yes.
and a tremendous opportunity if they are interested in going into the field of education, and a really great scholarship opportunity. And anyone who qualifies, they said, will be accepted into the program. So there are a lot of possibilities if you want to teach. On the intern program, as Mike said, we have placed a lot of our interns into classrooms, and we've had really positive feedback from our principals in terms of helping them put people in the right places. And half of that in your first year is being in the right slot, in order to be successful. And but we have a lot. As you gather, though, all of this is a lot of work for HR. They have to keep up with all of this, so they have to keep all of this out there in front of the staff. And so it is a big job, and really appreciate HR's work and getting this information out and talking to all those people, because they all call and want to talk, and and they're there. One of the things that Mike and I were talking about the other day is, one of the reasons they're so successful in having so few is that when somebody calls, they're trying now very hard to get right on it. Don't let a lot of time go by so no one else can grab them first. And that has just become absolutely critical right now when we're trying to rebuild the educational workforce. And so they put out that extra effort, which is what I think maybe accounts for some of that, those really good numbers, is just talking to people very quickly when they express an interest.
Yeah, Peggy and I have an absolutely phenomenal staff. We could not ask for better people that just have a true heart for doing this work and really believe in it and do reach out immediately and work with these folks and they have a lot of questions. You can hear, I just named 10 different programs that people can go through. So.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, any other questions from the board?
Good, thanks.
Okay. I'm super excited for next year. It's going to be, I'm just excited. I just hope more and more people come. We have a great district. So thank you so much for your report.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item is to approve the consent agenda. Any questions on the consent or a motion? Go ahead.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Gary Tripp, I second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Jeffrey Morgan and a second by Gary Tripp. And I believe I can do an all in favor on this one, correct? Yeah. Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Whenever we're in person, it takes me a bit to realize what I can and can't do in these meetings. Okay, so we will now move on to our business portion of our meeting. And we'll start with item A, to consider approval of the unapproved February 28th, 2022 regular board meeting minutes. Did anyone see any changes that need to take place on those minutes?
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I make a motion to approve unapproved February 28th, 2022 regular board meeting minutes.
I have a second. Okay, so we have a motion by Jeffrey Morgan and a second by Jessica Tyler. So I'm writing it in my notes. On our business, I'm just going to ask her, do we want to go for a roll call vote on this, or on these ones, can we go ahead and continue to do a all in favor? Okay, all right. Okay. On this one, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries 5-0. All right, we'll now go to item B, which is to consider the award of RFP number 2022-016-FAC, Rear Rancho Middle School HVAC replacement and renovation. Michael Madrid, our purchasing director, and Melanie Archbeck will present, our executive director of facilities. Go ahead.
Madam President Galbraith, Superintendent Dr. Cleveland, members of the board. My name is Michael Madrid. I'm the Director of Purchasing for the Finance Department. The item before you this afternoon is the award of RFP 2022-016 FAC for the Rio Rancho Middle School HVAC replacement and renovations. The requested action that we solicit the board is for approval of the evaluation committee's recommendation to issue an award to the highest ranked offer, Thompson Construction Incorporated. Some of the scope of work background includes demolition and replacement of the existing HVAC systems, some of the plumbing systems and electrical systems, demolition and replacement of the acoustical ceiling tiles, demolition and replacement of floor finishes. The district received a total of 5 responses to this procurement. Responses were received from Bradbury Stam Construction Incorporated out of Albuquerque, Bricon Corporation out of Albuquerque, ESA Construction out of Albuquerque, Thompson Construction Incorporated out of Albuquerque, Weiser Electric LLC out of Rio Rancho. As is typical, we review the responses for compliance and responsiveness with the general requirements identified in the RFP. All 5 offers were deemed to be responsive and were submitted to the evaluation committee for their scoring. This is a qualification procurement, which means we looked at the contractor's management plan, their past performance, their project staffing, their health and safety, and we also looked at price. Thompson Construction Incorporated ranked the highest of the offers, and they also provided the district the lowest price. What I'd like to do now is highlight some of the past performance that Thompson Construction Incorporated has performed within the K-12 throughout the state. Rio Rancho Public Schools, they performed the Lincoln Middle School HVAC and lighting replacement and interior renovations. For Rio Rancho Public Schools, they did the Eagle Ridge Middle School HVAC replacement, lighting replacements, and interior renovations. For Moriarty High School, they performed the gymnasium re-roof, HVAC replacement, and lighting replacement and other renovations. For Albuquerque Public Schools, they constructed various buildings at Del Norte High School as part of Phase 2. They constructed West Mesa High School new buildings. They were the contractor for the New Cine Community Stadium, football stadium, and they performed a variety of other re-roof projects throughout the state. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Board Member Tripp, any questions? Okay. Jeffrey Morgan, any questions?
You know, I thought I saw somewhere in there the cost of this. Can you refresh my? I went back and looked at some paperwork, but I just can't remember what it was. Do you have that information?
I can speak on generalities. I can't give you specifics.
Well, yeah, that's
We actually
fine.
award the contract. The MAC, which is the maximum allowable construction cost, is estimated at $10 million. And I can tell you that the base bid and all the additive alternates fall within our budget.
I just forgot where I was looking at it.
Typically, we try to provide it in the superintendent's report. So,
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. I think that's where I saw it. Thank you, though. Appreciate it.
yes, sir.
Thank you. Board Member Tyler
Questions?
and Secretary Scott.
No questions.
Okay. Dr. Cleveland, do you have anything else on this?
I don't.
Okay. Well, with that, a motion.
Board Member Tyler will make a motion to award RFP number 2022-016-FAC for Rio Rancho Middle School HVAC replacement and renovations to the approval of the evaluation committee's recommendation to issue award to the highest ranked offer, which was Thompson Construction Incorporated.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Our next item is our first reading of changes to policy 300, inspection of public records. Lauren Hatch, our chief counsel, is here to present.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Cleveland, I am Lauren Hatch, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to be in front of you today in person. I want to address first reading of proposed changes to policy 300. And before I talk about the specific changes that are being recommended, I would just like to say that IPRA is a challenging law for public bodies to comply with. The district is very focused on complying with its obligations. under the IPRA Act, and we support its public policy goals of providing information to the public. We've actually had the opportunity to make some enhancements, not large enhancements to our IPRA process in the last few years, but important ones. First of all, we've centralized the IPRA response process into the Office of the Superintendent. And we've are in the process of implementing some software to help us better track and comply with the timelines and the production requirements of IPRA. And the next enhancement that we'd like to make is in relation to training about the IPRA Act. But before we talk about training, I want to draw your attention to, I think it's the 5th paragraph. We have a small technical change about how we calculate the fees for copies of documents that we're producing when they are in a hard copy form. And our experience as a district is that we very rarely produce documents in a hard copy. We usually produce them electronically because that's what's most often requested. If you look at the change that we're making here, if a document is larger than 11 by 17 inches, originally we had it was 25 cents per copy. We've had some instances where the cost to produce very large format documents, for instance, plans, is more than that. We'd like the opportunity to be able to charge the actual cost of what that would be. So that's the first change there. If you look at page 2, we're adding language at the bottom of page 2 and into page 3 in relation to training for district officials and employees within the first 90 days of being elected or being employed with the district. Members of the board, members of the cabinet, department executive directors, attorneys within the legal department, and the designated records custodian will need to get training on IPRA from the Attorney General's office, which is the gold standard of training in the state of New Mexico. And then for some people, particularly the attorneys and our records custodian, they'll need to renew that every 2 years. And we'll keep track of that training in the Human Resources Department. This is a first reading. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. We'll put this on the agenda at the next meeting for a second reading and adoption of the changes, if that's the board's desire.
All right, thank you. Dr. Cleveland, did you want to add any comments on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Covered it very well.
Okay, Board Member Tripp?
Madam President, Lauren, my question is going back to the first paragraph that there's changes on, and I've just always wondered this. Is it reasonable that we can charge the employees time it took to make the copies? Because at some points, that's a lot of time out of the district that's taken away from kids, because everything we do is about kids. And I know it's usually for a case that's about, but I'm just wondering, is it reasonable to add the employee's time in there, or what would be your advice on that?
Madam President, Mr. Tripp, the prices that we put in here are slightly more than the actual cost to make a copy. Okay. The policy behind IPRA is to give as nearly free as possible access to records. If you'd like us to go back and look to see if there's some adjustments we could make there, we'd be happy to do that. I know that these prices are within what the Attorney General's office has said is acceptable.
Yeah. And Madam President, Lauren, there's no need to do that. I was just curious, because I don't want, every employee is valuable and their time is valuable too. So thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you. Vice President Morgan?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. And Jessica Tyler?
Questions?
Noreen Scott?
No questions. I'm really glad to see you, though. Glad you're with us still.
We are. And did you have anything else that you wanted?
Well, just the comment that was made earlier, it's the law it's difficult sometimes to adhere to it, even when you're trying the very best that you can. And I hope maybe at some point our legislature will look at some of those challenges and maybe do a little bit of refinement that does not impact the ability to get records, but also makes it easier to comply and does not require so much time, which translates into taxpayer money. And I think sometimes there's a lack of understanding that it costs taxpayers a lot of money through the time and effort. To Board Member Tripp's point, it is sometimes very time consuming, very costly.
Okay, anyone else? Well, thank you, thank you. We also just want to welcome David Mann, he just joined our legal counsel, and we're excited to have him too. So it's wonderful. So thank you, appreciate it. Okay. All right, so for item D is to consider the approval of the 2022-23 instructional calendar. So Peggy Johnston, our Human Resources Director, and Mike Chavez, our Executive Director of Human Resources, are here to present that to us. Now, I need to get to it, so you guys keep going, but when I'm looking down, I just don't want anyone to think I'm ignoring you. I just have to get to it on my computer.
Wait a second. Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Cleveland, distinguished members of the board. May I say how lovely it is to be here in person in front of you tonight, and nice to see all your faces. So we are here tonight to present the proposed 22-23 school year instructional calendar. And as Dr. Cleveland had explained, this is a product of the calendar committee, which is made up of a member of each school site and each department within the district office. So we have met several times, and we've taken into consideration the survey by the union. We've also had some informal input from our principals and our staff at the school as well. So I'll just kind of go through, and then we can stand for questions at the end. As Dr. Cleveland said, everyone wants to know, when do we start? When do we end? What are the holidays? So our proposed first day of the contract would be August 1st. Starting as we have in several years, that we will have 3 professional development days for staff at the beginning of that calendar. We would then start for secondary students on August 4. It would be actually a jump start day for our 6th graders and our 9th graders to give them an opportunity to come in without the other students there, allow them to see their space, get used to everything. And then the remainder of the secondary students would come in on the 5th of August, with elementary starting on the 8th. As we move into September, we of course have a holiday with Labor Day. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is that we do have one thing we're proposing for this calendar. It's 190 days, instructional days, that would be included in the extended learning plan, because it's 10 additional days over what the legislature indicates we must have, which is 180 days. What we are proposing is that we have 10 days built into the calendar that will actually have half instructional days with our students. And then the PM will actually be time for, professional development or planning for our staff. That is one thing we heard from our staff, that they do not have enough time for planning, PLCs, professional development. And so we tried to have a day built into every month where we could do that for our staff. And so it was dedicated for that. Our first day for that would then be September 2nd, which is a Friday. We also tried to have those abut a holiday, if at all possible. If not, we kind of went with the first Friday of the month, if we could. Moving into October, another thing that was proposed is to have 2 days on our fall break instead of the 1, which is at the same time as Balloon Fiesta. We heard from our staff that it's very difficult. There's not a lot of learning that gets done during that time, and that we do see a higher rate of absences during that time. And so the proposal of having 2 days off for fall break was something that we really took into consideration, and we built it into this calendar. And then middle school conferences would be later in that month. This is a little bit of a difference in having our middle school conferences and our elementary conferences not scheduled on the same days. That is something that we heard from the principals that they would like to do this year. And so we built that into this calendar. Moving into November, one of the challenges we thought we would face this year is our election day. It will be, we will have the opportunity to vote for a governor for this election. So we do anticipate that we will see a larger turnout at the polls. And of course, some of our school sites are used for those polling locations. Obviously, we need to make sure that we have a safe space for our students, that we don't have the public coming and going. And then we also have to be respectful of the public that's coming to vote in those elections to make sure that they have somewhere to park, that they can easily get in and out of the building and things like that. So we propose that that day be a virtual learning day for our students. And then for the rest of the day in the PM, that would actually be a professional development day at district office for our staff. The 11th is a holiday for Veterans Day. And then we have our elementary school conferences the week of Thanksgiving. That would be on the 21st and the 22nd, with our Thanksgiving holiday being that Wednesday through Friday of that week. Moving into December, we have our first day of the bus rider count. And then we have our winter break, which is what I think everyone wants to know when that's happening. That is going to be from December 22 through January 4. I will mention that that is one day off of the APS winter break. They are starting their winter break on the 21st. But what we heard from our secondary principals is that it is very difficult to be able to do finals and a final makeup day over, like, we need 3 days. So we didn't want to split it up and have one of those days be on a Friday and then we come back for a Monday, Tuesday and be off on Wednesday. So that's why we're one day off of the APS calendar. As we move into January, we do have a built-in in-service day. So the staff is coming back one day prior to the students coming back from winter break. We did that this past year and that worked out really well with staff. That was very well received and our curriculum and instruction department appreciated that greatly. Of course, we have a holiday with Martin Luther King Day in January. In February, we have another bus rider count day, and I will just call your attention to the fact that it is on a Wednesday, as it did fall in February again this past year. We are proposing that we switch those schedules like we did this past year and have our Wednesday be a Friday day, if that makes sense. And then the Friday the 10th would actually be a Wednesday schedule. So no Shining Stars preschool, for example, on that day and an early dismissal on that day. We find that the bus rider count is much higher during that time. And then of course, we're counting the Shining Stars students as well. We have another holiday in February with President's Day. And then moving into March, we have conferences that are split between the weeks. And that was again at the recommendation of the principals. We have our spring break, which is March 20 through 24, and that does align with APS. That is exactly the dates of the APS spring break. In April, then, we have a holiday. Our vernal holiday is on the 7th, on that Friday. So the day before that will be one of those half days, half with students instructional and half staff is doing professional development. And then on the 10th, which is that following Monday, we're proposing that that be a virtual learning day. We do find that a lot of families are traveling during that time, and that could make it a little easier on families that are traveling. Again, that would be half of the day with students virtually, asynchronous, and then the other half would be staff here at district office for professional development. And then we're already at May. As we move into the final month of our calendar, we've got all those graduation dates on there and some finals days. And then the other thing that we heard from staff, well, I'll say we heard two big things from staff. Please don't make us start in July. And so we made sure that our first day that we were proposing was in August. And then please don't make us go after Memorial Day. So we did fit that in, and we were able to have our final day be on May 26th, which is the Friday before Memorial Day. The other thing that was really important to us was to balance those 2 semesters. So if you'll look, we do have 93 instructional days in each semester, and then we have those 4 professional development days. So that works out to a 190-day calendar for our instructional staff. So that's it in a nutshell, but I will stand for questions if anyone has any questions.
Wait, real quick, Dr. Cleveland, did you want to add anything?
Just a couple of things. There are no snow days built into this calendar. You've probably seen that. One of the things that, in terms of the calendar, and Mr. Leppelman just did another look through all of this, is that we build into our calendar extra hours anyway, to always have those hours there, which is why we didn't have to make up the 2 snow days. We had sufficient hours, and Rio Rancho's always had more hours in terms of instruction than many other districts. So for elementary, we have maybe the least, but we still have 25 additional hours. And high school goes all the way up to 38 additional hours. So we small 1 or 2 days we can handle. If we had a major event, then we would end up having to go longer. But we do have some of that extra. And again, we've just always thought it's important that we have those built in for emergencies. And it's come in handy a lot of different times. The other thing that we're not bringing today, but we've had staff ask us to look at, and we're getting feedback now, is the possibility of moving the Wednesday to another day. And so once we get all that feedback, early release, we'll bring that for you to look at and get your opinions. If you have any now, we'd love to know what you are thinking about. But we are trying to gather that data to see what might be a better day. Santa Fe has an early release on Fridays, and they like that very much. Farmington has a late arrival on Monday, and they like it very much. But there are some things to be said for the Wednesdays. We got into the Wednesdays historically because Albuquerque did. And when we started, that was how Albuquerque handled it. But the real reason is that we had several of our church's congregations that did their religious training on Wednesday afternoons back then. And they asked us not to change it in order to honor that. They're not doing that anymore. And so that need has kind of gone away. And so we are getting that information just to kind of let you know that it's being discussed. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with Jessica.
I have 2 questions. One is with middle school and high schools returning on a Friday, and then also all students returning on a Friday after winter break. Historically, is attendance low on those days?
Well, we did propose that to our secondary principals, and they actually thought it would be a wonderful idea. It would be a bit of a soft start, if you will, and they thought it might not sound so scary. So we actually are looking forward to seeing how this works. I feel like every year it's a bit of an experiment to see how our calendar is going to work, and then we build from that. So we're looking forward to gathering that data.
Yeah, because as a mom, and I know my kids, when we've traditionally started on like a Wednesday or Thursday, that has eased them back into the school year. But a Friday, and I feel like especially coming back from winter break, I feel like a lot of people are going to just wish we had that Friday off and start on Monday. So I feel like that might be a little bit of a wasted day. I don't want to say it that way, but I did. So there you go.
Excuse me, real quick, while you're on that subject, because I want to stick with that for a second.
Sure.
I was thinking the same thing for coming back to school in August, starting on a Friday. I'm kind of like board member Tyler. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I wanted to know, what are the chances on getting 100% participation coming back to school on a Friday as well in August?
I can tell you one of the reasons that they've done it in the past, and Renee might want to jump into that, but one of the reasons is they start on Friday and they find all the things that are wrong with schedules, all the things that need to be adjusted. And then those poor folks work that whole weekend to try to get schedules changed and people in the right places and ready to go on Monday. Okay. So I'm sure nobody'd be happier than they would be if we, didn't make them work that weekend. Okay. But it is what makes that next week, go pretty smoothly, is to have that time to fix all the changes that people feel they need.
Okay, go ahead, Tony. Sorry.
Well, and I'm gonna jump in real quick. President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board. I did this job before Peggy did for quite a number of years, and and she's done it. She does an amazing job. It's a little bit of herding cats to work on this because, and the reason I say that is not the people involved. It's all of those things you're mentioning right now. We have had discussions about every single day of the week. Oh no, you can't do a Monday because, and we'll go down the list of why you can't. You can't do a Tuesday because we'll go down the list. And board member Tripp is looking at me and nodding his head because he knows. We'll go, no, can't do a Wednesday because, so it's a really difficult thing to do a calendar because all of you want every piece to fit together. You just really, really do. And it's never going to all come together, and so as Peggy said, what we do is each year we try it, we hope for the best, and then next year we kind of look at it and we say, we're not going to do that again. But so to board member Morgan's point, what we would have to do is we'd have to move it up to Monday, right? But then that throws the 2 semesters off balance. Right now she's got it perfectly balanced, but now we're off balance. So then we have to go, okay, now what are we going to do to balance the semester? So we're going to have to change one of the holidays. So then we're
never taking
Domino
President's
effect.
you're
Day
never,
again.
yeah, you're
We
never
can't do
gonna,
that
you're
again.
never gonna. So, and then I'm just throwing that out there just so the board understands kind of the.
Oh yeah, no, I completely understand. I just think a lot of families have a little bit of anxiety right now about the extra instructional days anyhow. And so I just think from a psychological standpoint, not coming back from Christmas break on that Friday would help ease that because you feel like you get more of a break. So I get the domino effect and because I was looking at the balance of the instructional days as well. And so I thought, well, if you took that Friday, well, then you're at 92, 94, still pretty balanced. I don't feel like that's too off balance to balance your semesters for instructional purposes. But I get the domino effect. So
Yeah, and no, please don't get me wrong. Please keep throwing those ideas out there because we do look at it. We tweak it. We took away a holiday last year. I mean, it's there's never a time when we say no, this is it, and we can't change it.
Mhm.
I always like to throw, just the reasons for some of the things.
Sure.
Out there. So thank you.
And then my second question is on the virtual days, will staff have the option to work from home or from school, or are they going to be instructed that they either have to instruct from school or have to be home? I know we've had some staff bring up, questions that they don't want to be working from home, so they want to have the opportunity, even if they're teaching virtually from school and vice versa. So will they have that option, or do we know yet?
Actually, they will be at the school site. That's a great question because I know there's a lot of unknowns, but they will be at the school site because that half the afternoon will actually either be planning at their school site or it will be professional development that may be here at the district office.
Not on the gray days, but on
Oh,
the
I'm
pink
sorry.
days.
You're
just
talking about
just
the
on the
virtual
virtual days.
Yeah, they would still be coming to the site
Okay.
because then they'll do professional development here at the district office in the afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, Noreen Scott.
No, I have no questions. It sounds like you've balanced it out quite nicely. I guess the one thing I do ask is if we went to a half day on Friday, would we have a problem with people not coming at all? Well, it's only a half day, take it off. Because it seems to me that a half day would be a good thing on a Friday, but that's my question.
It's a good question, and we've looked at it both ways, and it's we already have higher absentee rates on Friday and Monday. It's just amazing that people tend to get sick on those days, and so we already have a little of that. But one of the positives would be that we have so many of our staff out on Fridays for athletic and fine arts events, and finding substitutes on those days are very problematic. And so, looking at that, some of our, for example, looking at some of our coaches, they leave at noon. You wouldn't have to have a substitute in the afternoon. The challenge then for CNI, of course, is that they've got to get them caught up on whatever it is they missed, and they have to, try to find a way to make sure they get the information. So there's plus and minuses. We've heard from a lot of parents they would like it. For a time for their families, it would be a good thing for them. But there's some negatives as well as positives for sure.
Could we experiment with it for maybe the first semester or the second semester and just see how it's received?
I think we could do that. But it's people today, their lives are so busy that they plan things way in advance. And so changing during the year, we're finding that people aren't really very happy or flexible about changes during the year because they've already planned to use that Friday or they've already planned to. So, I think it could be a pilot for a year would be easier than maybe a semester, but that's a thought.
Real quick, I'm sorry, while you're talking about that, I appreciate you guys because you're asking the same questions that I have. So I'm going to chime in. My recommendation was, what if you alternated? One month it's a Wednesday, another month it's a Friday. Have you thought about that at all? Because Dr. Cleveland just made a very interesting point. People plan around those days, and the month it's a Friday, they could plan around that. So
the challenge would be childcare.
Okay.
The challenge would be childcare, and so you could probably line up for younger children a sitter. But it'd be hard to say this month you're Wednesday,
Okay.
then you're on Friday.
Gotcha.
So it's the childcare issue
Okay.
that maybe would make that a little more challenging to do. I think people want to know more or less one or the other. So
That's it.
Okay, we'll go over to Board Member Tripp.
I want to thank everybody for bringing up all those questions because those are all the notes that I had, and I wanted to make sure I did want to share, Peggy, that the biggest response I got, and being a former educator, I hear a lot from educators. So the biggest response I got was Board Member Tyler started with the January 6th date, but just for feedback is coming back. One of the things that surprises me, and this is just from me, nothing from any other comment, was that the elementary and middle school were split as far as the conferences, because I know a lot of families have multiple children in the household. And so that was a little bit of a surprise to me that we would split the elementary and middle school up. But everything that has been said here, I totally agree. But I don't know how many parents are out there watching, but one thing I always appreciate, because I had to serve on this for many years, and I appreciate the job that's done, is that here it is, once the board passes it, so plan now accordingly. It's hard to get emails in December. Why did you do this? They had time with surveys or the board representation or representations from all the buildings. So get all your frustrations out now. And like Mike says, there's a million reasons why you do it. And I think you did a fabulous job, but that was my only personal comment was the elementary and middle school breakup. But I think it's a job well done, and it's a thankless job. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Board Member Tripp. And if I could just speak to that, we did hear some feedback from parents that it was difficult for them because they had children in elementary and they had children in middle school, and they felt they had to choose when the conferences were on the same day. Which conference do I go to? So this actually gives them an opportunity to actually be attending both children's or multiple children's conferences if they have different age levels in their home.
Can I mention one thing? Just something that the pandemic brought to my attention, and as a learning, virtual parent-teacher conferences seem to work well for parents, especially a lot of our parents, working parents. But so maybe there could be more of that, and it could be appreciated, but it does allow parents to be in that building with that teacher. So thank you.
Thank you. On those, on my printout for my computer, they're purple, but Board Member Tyler said they're gray. So on those half days, what does our schedule look like? Are we looking at like a Wednesday schedule? Is that what we're looking at? Or everyone gone at noon so Wednesday?
Similar to a Wednesday schedule, or no, a true half day.
Okay. So what would that look like, Renee? What time, like elementary would probably get out at? Okay. 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 And that works okay with buses and
Yes, so Lynn Carl, our Executive Director of Transportation, is working out that schedule, but she did not foresee an issue with that schedule. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we would be doing grab-and-go lunches for our students on those days so that they're able to take lunch with them.
Okay.
I mentioned one more thing about the elementary, middle school. Elementary is on a trimester. Middle school.
Mm-hmm.
So when we did it at the same time, it was like after.
Mm-hmm.
So they really wanted to try it.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. I know I had another question. I think that's it. Anyone else have any questions on the calendar as it is? I think it's interesting to look at. So I printed out the APS calendar just because I think that's the biggest complaint that we get every year. But it's really a day difference. It's coming in May. It's really just a day difference that their last day of school is the 25th and ours is the 26th. And so I thought that was that hopefully is good for our families to recognize. Maybe one last thing, Dr. Cleveland, can you just speak to and I know we've talked about it so many times, but what does our district receive for doing these additional days? Like what is the benefit to our district for having these additional days?
Yeah, sure. There's a lot. And in addition to funding the additional days, which is very helpful, there's a considerable amount of overhead that comes with it as well. And we had that additional funding. We were able to do so many things for our students. Things like paying for families no longer having to pay to make up classes in this, that needed those for graduation. Some of the mentoring and the tutoring and some of the other, very special programs, it came about because we had those resources to do that. And those things would go away. We would not be able to provide them anymore. And so we believe, for example, looking at the high school, and Renee can address some of those if you'd like her to, the extra help and support, take a look at our graduation rate and take a look at some of the other districts. And I think one of that factors is that we were able to provide additional support services for students. So we just don't want to lose those. And if you recall, Janice Chenault showed you last year some of the really wonderful programs that they put in for kids, the elementary level. Those would go away. Or we would pass them on to parents, the cost, but that doesn't work very well. Parents don't want to have to pay those extra things. And in addition to that, it's and it doesn't quite become a free education. And so we've heard that over the years. So it also, and Mike Baker he's working on it, but he doesn't have it finished yet, but he has looked at it preliminary wise. And we may need those resources to be able to do all of the mandates that we've been asked to do. Because as you know, when it flows through the formula, Rio Rancho gets less than many other districts. So it will help us be able to maintain our staffing, not having to cut staff, maintain our programs, and maintain all the supports that we put in. And we put in additional counseling. We put in several SEL kinds of things for staff, and we want to be able to retain those for our families. And I think our families want those to be there for their children. So it enables us to be able to continue to provide those services.
I think student achievement is the most critical thing. And those extra 10 days may help a percentage of students succeed where they might not otherwise have. And to me, that's the most important thing is our student achievement, keeping our expectations high.
Let me add one other thing to that too, in terms of our students. But one of the things that was really unfortunate last year that we saw was the state was providing really good quality professional development. But we were forcing our teachers to take and do that at home on their own time, on the weekends, and it was a lot. I don't know if Carl, if you or Renee remember how many hours MLIS, I think. But it was tremendous. We'll now have opportunities for them to do some of that at the school site and do it together, as opposed to having to do it on their Saturdays or Sundays and in the evening. And there was a lot of resentment about that. There really was. And what we heard back was it's really good quality, professional development. But we like our evenings with our families too. We like our weekends and our summers. So I think that was another really big factor we heard was, could we get more of the mandated professional development training during the workday? And this will allow us to do that as well.
Okay, Board Member Tripp?
Madam President Peggy, I had one more thing on here and I apologize, but this is really for the future for next year, but it does have to do with January 6th. January 6th is All Kings Day. And I know we have over 1,000 Native American children. So maybe something that Suzanne Nguyen, our federal executive director in charge of federal programs, I wonder how many of those kids in our district participate in All Kings Day, because I know when I worked in a Pueblo, it was 100% mandatory. So it might be something that we might have to look at in the future. And it's something that I know she meets with them all the time, the leadership of the Native American community. So just something to look at for the future. Thank you.
I get that. So any other questions? And we're going to go into a vote on this. I just want to make sure everyone feels comfortable that everything was answered. If there's any changes anyone wants, if we do, so say we go to Fridays for those half days, which I think is amazing. But if we do that, it'll change this calendar a little bit, I'm guessing. So we might see some changes coming back to the board if that takes place, I'm guessing. Okay.
But it wouldn't change the beginning and the
No.
end of the
Yeah.
major holidays.
Yeah.
So it would be minor changes.
It would be a minor change. Okay. I'll entertain a motion if someone would like to give a motion.
This is board. Do I want to mention about the possibility of changes then?
No, I think
Okay.
we can just do it.
This is Board Member Jeff Morgan. I make a motion to approve the 2022-2023 instructional calendar.
Board Member Tyler will second.
Okay. We have a motion by Jeffrey Morgan and a second by Jessica Tyler. And let's go ahead and do a roll call vote on this, Kim, if you would.
Okay, I wasn't sure whether I still had that on or not. Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott,
Yes.
Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
and President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for all the hard work you put into that. Okay.
Let me just share one other thing we're talking about, but we'll bring that back to you as well, is whether we can do it or not, we don't know. But we've also been asked to look at whether we could change the order of pickup for transportation. And we have heard for such a long time that early time is really hard for high school age kids. Elementary children often do very well in the morning. It would also give us an opportunity to have a longer safe in the afternoon where we could do more things than we can do now. You could have some field trips, you could have some other kinds. So that's in discussion as well, of picking elementary up and then middle school and then high school. We looked at that several years ago. The only drawback to that is some families really like to have the older brothers and sisters home when the younger ones get there. So we would have to ask our families what they think. But that is also one of the things the staff has asked us to consider looking at. I would also remind the board, I've said it before, but this calendar has to be negotiated with the union. That is required.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so for our last item in business will be the board meeting calendar and date preferences for 2022-23. So Kim Vesley, our assistant to the superintendent, will discuss with us.
Okay, thank you, President Galbraith, members of the board, and Dr. Cleveland. And I had the same problem Dr. Cleveland did. I didn't print out my report, so I had to call a computer up here. So bear with me on that. About this time of year, every year we start putting together the annual board calendar, and that's the schedule of your regular meetings, your second and fourth Monday type of meetings, or anything we can anticipate that. We then bring that to you for approval, and your approval constitutes public notice once we send that to the media and post it on the website of your regular meetings. So we're about ready to start that process, but we have pretty much a new group of board members here in the last 2 years. And we thought this might be a good time to ask you all if you still like the second and fourth Mondays, and also some other considerations. We have tended to stack, finance committee meetings, audit meetings, workshops, and line them up on the same day as board meetings to try to keep you from having to come in so often. But maybe that's not what you want at this point. What is the best start time? Sometimes, we've actually wound up postponing some regular board meetings to 6 o'clock this year because we've run workshops and finance committee in front of there, and we want to try to give you a little bit of time to have a break between meetings. So we may want to look at moving the start time of those regular meetings. Those sorts of things are kind of what we're wondering. And so basically, I'm just here to ask for your feedback. And I think you've already seen the memo on that and maybe had a chance to ponder the questions. So at this point, I'll just stand for questions.
Kim, this is Noreen Scott. I think that from my perspective, the 2 Mondays a month are fine, but I would like to see us start at 6 instead of 5:30. And I'm happy with the meetings being stacked. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Jessica Tyler, you want to give some thoughts?
I'm also okay with the meetings being stacked, and I like the 5:30 start time just because I tend to go to bed early. So after 8:30, I might not, speak very well. So I like the earlier start time just for that reason.
Okay. Board Member Tripp?
I like Netflix at night, so. But I like the consistency of time on the Mondays. The second and fourth Mondays don't bother me so whether it's 5:30 or 6, but as long as it was consistent. I'm wondering about committee meetings more. If in the future, and this is just food for thought, because I can do anything the board would like to do, but it sure would be nice to get together with the leadership during the business hours. I've always felt like an audit or a finance committee and more leaders can attend in case you have questions, and not that they wouldn't attend, they would all be loyal and attend. It tends to get tiring at the end of the day. So my thing is about the committee meetings and maybe looking at the possibility of 2 a month all the time and rotating them and maybe going a little bit earlier so everybody can go home. But I know that's not practical with all board members. I know I have a little better situation in my life now that I can make that time happen. So I'm flexible.
Jeffrey Morgan?
Yeah, my only ask is I'm okay with the schedule, and I don't care what time. 5:36 works for me. I just like to know if we could have access to do it virtual, because I travel a lot on Mondays, and if I don't get out of here in time, sometime I have to drive to Las Cruces, Roswell, and travel to other places, and that puts me in at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night sometimes. So, or I have to turn around and leave at 4 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. So it'd be nice if we could. If you can't, no big deal. I can adjust my schedule because I get to control my own schedule. But if there's a possibility of doing virtual from time to time, that would be great. And I'm not saying everybody, but maybe those that are traveling, if we could chime in, that would be perfect.
We are working on it as we speak. You see that wonderful little blue wire dangling down there? That's part of working on it. And Tyler can probably give us a fuller update, but I'm thinking, yeah, come on up, Tyler. I'm going to let you talk.
Yeah, so the timeline is still a little bit in flux as we're dealing with the supply chain stuff and not knowing exactly when we are going to get equipment in, but that'll likely be completed by the end of April, actually. So we're going to have some of the audio visual stuff done a little bit sooner, soon after spring break. And then the audio stuff that will actually enable you to be able to join remotely, hopefully by the end of April.
And because I'm such a dedicated board member, I like to do some of these on vacation as well. I don't think my wife is listening right now, but I like to do some of these on vacation as well because I hate missing these meetings is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do seem to recall Hawaii.
Yeah. As an
And
example.
I wondered what Tony thought of that, actually.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Tyler, am I correct in saying that most of the infrastructure is put in? And so now, as soon as we get the equipment, it will just go in pretty much. Is that correct? Okay.
The boardroom reserved the first week of April to install some of the equipment. And then I think some of it is still on back order. Am I right about that? Okay. The other consideration that I just want to mention is if we do change the meeting start time, which we might of the regular meetings, we do have to bring policy 208 back because that's in that policy. We can certainly do that. It's not a big deal, but that's part of the reason we need to know before we do the board calendar because there's also another piece to it.
I was smiling at Lauren Hatch for that. Okay, so let's just kind of discuss for a few minutes. I don't mind the 5:30 meeting time. I work, my actual job is early in the morning until, I'm done around 10 or so. So for me, those things aren't a huge deal, but Noreen, it would be better for you to do a 6 o'clock time than it would be for
It would, but if the other 4 folks want 5:30, I'm just going to have to figure out how to do that. Oftentimes I'm downtown Albuquerque and I'm trying to get back here in a scramble. So that's the challenge for me, but I'll work it out.
Well, and my other question too, when it comes to like our finance committee meetings and such and our audit meetings, not all of us have to go to the audit meetings. But what is the earliest that everyone can meet? I mean, my biggest interest, I think, is we have staff here that starts early in the morning, and I always feel bad that we go, sometimes really late at night. And so, what is the earliest that everyone can meet when we do have those kind of?
I think Kim would like about 7 a.m. if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, I'm a night person.
Yeah, I was going to say she's a night person.
I worked with Kim a little bit. I know 7 a.m. doesn't work, but I guess what I was wondering is once in a while, maybe starting the day at the board's convenience, because I know the staff's already here and they may want to start the day and then go to work instead of trying to rush back at the end of the day and have a meeting when we're all tired. I mean, that was and again, it's just food for thought. Yeah. As we're pondering this.
Right now, the way we do it is Kim kind of call all of us and say, we got it set for this time. Can you go earlier, later? So can we take that approach? Maybe we set a time and then maybe one of them days, a couple of weeks in advance, Kim, you could shoot an email out or a call like you've been doing. Thank you. And say, hey, can we move a couple hours early? And then people make the decision from there.
I just know mornings would not work for me.
Well, and that's hard.
But
for
to
me
your
too.
point,
Mhm.
can we start as early as 2 or 3? Is
Or
that a
4?
problem for any board member if we start at 2 or 3? Does that cause a problem for you?
I couldn't do that on a normal basis, but for,
Every
some meetings here or there, I could do it. The earliest I could probably start would be like a 3:30 or 4.
Well, even 4 would help quite a bit because that would give us a little time between meetings, probably. In most cases. Now, obviously, the last finance committee meeting ran almost up to the start of the board meeting, but that's not always the case.
3:30 or 4 is fine for me.
So we are looking at trying to put our finance committee meetings onto the calendar. And I believe we're looking at quarterly meetings. Is that right, Mike? Trying to set up a quarterly meeting. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay.
I think, Madam President, that I would like to see us have a workshop on the budget, that we could spend an hour and a half or 2 hours understanding how the budget for the next year is going to flow. That would really help me. The second thing I would like to see that we've talked about is I would like to have us have a little workshop on procurement so that we can understand how the decisions are made on procurement. Those are kind of two things that would really help me. If we could have those before a board meeting for an hour and a half, and just kind of go through it like you did, Mike, when I came on the board. If we could just have a screen and take us all through it, and we could ask the questions we have, it would, I think, speed everything up too. And I guess the third workshop I'd like to see is on our policies and procedures. From my perspective, I think it would be really helpful for us to take a look at those policies that maybe haven't been looked at in several years. I was reading through through kind of the requirements that we're supposed to review every one of those every 2 years or every year, and I know I personally have not felt like we have.
Okay. We did go through every single policy when, Lauren?
2018, I think, right?
2018.
Into 2019, I think.
Yeah. So it's been you're exactly right. It's been a couple of years. And one of the things, we can do that a couple of different ways. We can just take each section and do a section at a time, or before very long, it all starts kind of just, start glazing over. But we could start and it was a certain number, and then ask you all to read through them, see if there's any things you'd like to bring up or like information on or whatever. And we can kind of start at that point. But, you're right. We need to do it. It's now been a couple of years.
That would be my preference, that they were sent out to us in advance. We look at them, and then the question is just asked, okay, is there anything in this section that you are worried about or have questions on? And then we just, rather than tediously plow through each one out loud in a meeting, I would prefer that we just look at them and everybody'd have a vote.
One of the really important services that Lauren provides us, or support he provides us, and David will also help with that now, is the first response is whatever change in the legislature that's immediately going to impact our policies. Yeah. And we have been working on some of those, but we could start that. We could start doing that
fairly soon and going through those again. And I think your approach is a really good one. Just do a section at a time and let people read through them and then bring their questions. And it gets pretty old and it's page by page, but that's what we did the last time. That's what we did. We did every single page.
Yeah, well, I'm not looking for that kind of.
Yeah.
And the policy manual, of course, is online. So
Yeah.
you can look at
Look
anything
at
you
the
want
policy
anytime you like.
Well, we're kind of getting off a little bit, but I mean, on that note, I do know, I think there are a whole bunch of policies that are ready to kind of come up during the really bad part of the pandemic as we were going through. A lot of those things just were put off until we could get back in person. So a lot of those things I think are ready to come before the board and we can look at. So on that, let's just kind of talk about what I'm hearing. So I'm hearing that a 5:30, other than Noreen, unless everyone wants to change it, is still a good time. Yeah. And that these dates are good. I am concerned about the graduation one in May, and I think we should probably switch that. So if you see on May 22nd, that's going to be, I believe, Rio Rancho High School's graduation. So that might make for a really long day for everyone if we have a board.
Yeah, what I did was just put all the second
Yeah.
and fourth on.
Mhm.
And customarily, we don't do a board meeting on the fourth Monday in May.
In May. Okay.
Let's take that one off and then the one that falls spring break.
Yeah, we usually take that off too, the one right after spring break. And usually, there's one after Thanksgiving too, that I think we kept on this year, didn't we?
Yeah. Which I think would probably be okay. The one after Thanksgiving, I think.
And if we have to have a special one
Mhm.
to make up for it later, that's easier to schedule than trying to push people around those particular times. So, and as Mike Baker shared, as we get into the budget, there will have to probably be a couple of special meetings in order to get things done. But
Okay, so we're looking at taking off March 27th, May 22nd, and then possibly doing special meetings if we have like things that need to be passed and such.
I have a question. Are we required to have so many meetings a year?
no. And there are a lot of districts in New Mexico that meet only once a month, but they tend to be much smaller districts that don't have all the complexity of issues that we have. So, but there are some that meet once. So no, it's not required. I don't believe that we meet twice a month.
Okay, thank you.
Very quick meetings.
There's also some other things that drive that need to, the number of times to meet, especially in a district our size. But there are other, and I don't know exactly what they are, but I know they exist. You have to pay your bills on time.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some other regulations that are built in to be fair to your vendors and the people who do business with you. And so that need to be able to keep bars flowing and to be able to pay bills is critical. So in reality, for larger districts, it's just, I don't know how you'd ever get by with less than 2 a month, except in rare occasions. And what our history has been is we usually don't do those dates and then have to do a special at some point. But the reality is that we are really required because we've got things that we've got to do.
More questions over here. I just saw everyone kind of busy jotting things down. Do you have any questions? Good. And over here. Okay. So we're looking at taking those 2 dates off, I think, sticking with the 5:30. That could be okay, Noreen?
Yeah, 5:30 is fine.
Okay. And then possibly doing maybe those other meetings and maybe at 4. Would that be okay?
Yeah, and I would like to see us schedule the quarterly finance meetings according to when you guys have your reports done for after that quarter. And then we'll do the extra ones during budget season when we are able to have the information needed. I don't think, like Mike Biker said, there's any way for us to schedule those now. So we'll schedule 4, plan for 4 on a quarterly basis, and then add the ones needed for the budget.
Okay. And then we can always make more if we need to, right, Mike? He misses us sometimes when we're not together.
Another very quick question. The audit committee meetings last year were on Thursdays. And I think that was to accommodate the schedule of the chair of the audit committee at the time. Do you want us to go back to Mondays on that, or do you all have a different preference?
Who else who's on with you? Who's your?
I think it's,
That's Gary, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Is that all right with you to go to Monday? Okay.
Okay.
So you'd like to be back on Monday? Okay, we'll do that.
Okay. Any other questions on the calendar? Any questions from you, Kim, that we've missed?
I don't think so. Working on getting you redistricting set up reasonably soon too.
Okay, that is really, really important. We need to get that redistricting put up. So if you guys could submit times that you are available, how much time do we need for that?
I would say a couple of hours. And one thing that might help, if it would be helpful for you guys to come in individually or in twos. We can't have more than two because that would be a quorum. But if you want to come in and spend some time looking at the maps, I'm very close to having them all. And I would be glad to set up a time with you to just come in and do that and just look over them and compare them so you have some knowledge before the meeting, if that would be helpful.
That would be my preference.
Could we put them up in the conference room?
Yes.
Yeah, some place where we can put them all up around and
Yeah. And I can also put the electronic maps up as well. Yeah, if you would like to do that, I would be glad to arrange that for you.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure everyone gets their times into Kim when you're available for that, so that we can make sure that happens for our community. So
thank you.
Okay, so on that is actually, you put it down as an action. So do you want us to vote on this?
I put it on as an action item in case there was anything like changing the time that would involve having to change policy,
Okay.
but I don't think we did that.
We didn't, other than taking off those few. Do we need, Lauren, do we need to vote on that? Or we're good. Everything looks the same then from that.
We'll actually bring the board calendar to you.
Okay.
Probably a couple of meetings from now.
Okay. Okay. Sounds great. All right. Thank you. Okay. Anything else, Dr. Cleveland? I'm going to go into advanced planning. Okay.
Oh, well, I will have one thing. We've had this, Mike and Michael Madrid have had a plan for an audit presentation for quite a while. And so we can move on that pretty quickly. We talked about initially having it at the retreat. But I think given the time and where we are, probably better just to schedule that.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll work with Michael to get that schedule as quickly as possible to go over all those rules and regulations and have a presentation ready. So I know Michael's ready for it because he told me it was already done and he was ready to go.
Yeah, the other reminder is, of course, the audit RFP is out, and I believe that the audit committee or the members of the audit committee are basically the evaluation committee, and that will involve a couple of meetings in April. And I think that's in the memo.
Okay.
I remember.
Okay, that all goes towards our advanced planning. That is planning advanced. Okay. So with that, so then March 22nd through the 25th will be spring break next week.
Right.
Wonderful. April 11th will be our next regular board meeting at 5:30. Are we going to be able to be in? I know that there's things happening in here. So April 11th and the 25th, will we be in the board room? I'm going to look at Tyler and see what.
I'm looking at you, Tyler.
Yeah, we're looking at you, Tyler. So for we have an April 11th and 25th meeting, our next ones. Are we going to be able to be in the boardroom? Is that going to be an issue? Okay. And they will let us know if that changes at all, if for some reason that changes. Okay. So April 11th and the 25th will be regular board meetings here in this room at 5:30. Then May 9th will also be a regular board meeting at 5:30. So that's our advanced planning. Anything else on advanced planning or any questions?
Just on the one thing where you absolutely have to have 100% of the board, there just cannot be anyone not here, is for redistricting. So we want to be sure we get a time that fits all of your needs. And to Mr. Tripp's suggestion, I thought was a really good one. It really is important you become familiar with that before you come to the meeting, because if not, the time will not be utilized very effectively. So we will put them up around that room. You can go in anytime in the conference room and be able to look at all of them.
And then we have a digital opportunity as well. But I think most of you have indicated to me you prefer the maps that you can actually go up and see it all. So
And can you also just send us any information that you've all gathered? Maybe you haven't gathered a lot, but if there's any information that you've gathered that would help us in that process, if you could send that out to us, that would be great. Okay. All right.
I have a question on that meeting. I mean, I know at one point we had or talked about having it on March 28th, and then it was asked to move to the 29th. I know I was unavailable on the 29th. Is everybody still available on the 28th? I feel like if maybe we could just all look at our calendars now, it might be easier to set that time aside, because if people go to spring break next week and then another week passes, it's going to be tight to.
I don't have my calendar here, but
Oh, okay.
I don't think that March 28th is a bad time for me. I think I can do it.
I thought that was the date.
That's the Monday, the
I built
28th.
my schedule around it.
So the only concern we had was the district staff coming out of spring break. Is it good? Would that be?
it's fine
It'll
for
be
us.
okay.
Can we do April 11th? I mean, can we do it right before our board meeting on April 11th?
Are we pushing out too far? Or would that be okay?
How many hours do we need?
So it will make that day very long.
It'd be a long day. Do
We
you
would-
really want, is that maybe one of the topics that you want to do a separate date for, just because of the complexity of it?
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, I'm just asking, I'm not saying that's what you should
It could
do.
be
I
good
just-
so we don't run into trying to get to a next meeting, I would think.
Well, my challenge is I'm out of state the week prior to that April 11th meeting. I know I'm not in state then.
Well, we don't have the boardroom that day, that week anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, Kim, could we kind of do a little doodle meets thing and send out a couple of alternative dates and let us.
It would kind of help me to have a little bit of an idea of what time frame you're looking at.
What if we could do the April 11th? We could do 3:00, have some food, and that would give us 2 hours before 2.5 hours before the meeting starts. And would that work? You have enough time to request a couple hours off? Would that?
Okay, that would work well for us.
Yeah.
And then we will work together and we will make a not too long a meeting. And everyone else in this room, we're going to try to do a light board meeting on that day. Okay. All right. So, okay, good on advanced planning. Any other questions on this? Okay. Okay.
And then we, March 28th,
So we're looking at the 11th before the board meeting.
the 11th.
The 11th, we're going to try for a 3:00 time. So if that doesn't work out after you leave here, please let Kim know.
3:00 on the 11th for redistricting. Can you do that?
I'd have to-
Or is that not going to work for you?
That's fine. I'd already built.
It doesn't sound
28,
good.
So,
Do you think it'll be okay, Jeff?
yeah, I'll figure it out.
You'll be our hero if we can get it done. Okay. So let's try for that. If it doesn't work out, if someone goes home and realizes it's not going to work out, please just let Kim know. We can come up with a different day and send out some different dates for that. And then, like I said, we'll just try to make it a lighter board meeting on.
We
that
also
day.
have to make sure the consultant is available on that day.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay. So we'll check all those things. We'll make that just kind of a possible. And then if you end up having the 28th free, maybe just let us know too, if that's a possibility too. Okay. All right. Moving for our executive session. So consideration of a motion to convene an executive session for the purpose of discussing limited personnel matters such as permitted under Section 10-15-1H2 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, specifically for the board to discuss the superintendent's end of year 2021-22 evaluation and contract review. Someone wants to give a motion or so moved. Thank you.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion by Jessica Tyler. Sorry, I'm just writing my notes. And then a second by Noreen Scott. All in favor?
I believe this.
Oh, this one
requires
is a roll call. You're right. I didn't see that Lauren Hatch got up really. So
Yes,
we'll do a roll call vote on that if you could.
I'm just trying, there we go. Thank you. Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott.
Yes.
Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
and President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. And could I remind the board that once you complete the executive session, you need to convene back in here to report out.
Okay. All right. And I will let you know, Kim, are you going to be?
I'll stay here.
Okay. It shouldn't be very long. Thank you.
And I will try